So the guide found that as we reached this critical point in the trip that his batteries in his flashlight had frozen because of the temperature. And I happened to have a couple of extra batteries and I had another flashlight in my backpack. And because it was so close to my body, it was warm, so it was still working. And at that time, I took out some water to drink it to see that it had become frozen. So that gives you an idea of how cold it was. Meanwhile, we're climbing, we're sweating, we're swearing, we're spitting, we're wondering if this is ever going to end. And so he took us along these narrow passageways, and he said, "Whatever you do, just stay behind me." And we did beautifully. He was the guide, and we kept going up and up and up a little more. We knew from the map that Morton's was at about, Gilmore, was about 18,000 some feet, so we had another 1,900 feet to go. So just as the sun was coming up, we could see about 200 miles or 150 miles, some enormous distance because of the altitude and the clarity of the air. We could practically see the Indian Ocean from the top of the crater. And as the sun was coming up, we saw that we were passing glaciers, frozen glaciers at the top of the volcanic area. And as we turned the corner, we could see about a half a mile ahead the sign that announced the summit of Kilimanjaro. But the air was so thin that none of us had any extra oxygen, so we were told to take small steps, and the steps were probably about 18 inches long, each step. And each step we would take the step, we would stop, take another step, and stop, and another. So you can imagine how long it took. But ultimately we got to the top, big celebration, and we were the first people up that day. And so we had plenty of time for cameras and photos and proofread shots and things like that. And then we had to immediately turn around and go back down because the clouds at Kilimanjaro come in sometime in the mid-morning, and if you're not cleared from the mountaintop, you can't see, and that's how people have died up there. So we started down, we ran into the other couple at Gilmore's Peak. That's as far as they could get. And so then we kept going down, and as we hit further down in the volcanic ash, we still had our ski gear on. It was still cold, but we found that we could actually ski down the ash by going straight into it and kind of sliding forward all the way down to the camp. We got down to the camp at Kivu Point, and we took off our snow gear, put on more appropriate clothing for the weather, and went all the way down to Manyara Camp, which, as I said, was about 13,000 feet. It was about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and we had been up since, literally we'd been up for 24 hours, climbing all night long, but we were so elated behind the energy and the excitement, we got all the way down to the camp. We went to bed. We were supposed to have dinner at like 7 p.m. I woke up at 8 in the morning the next day. I was completely exhausted. The next day we got up and we went all the way down to the base camp where we started in that next day. And it's 4 days up, 2 days down for us. Okay. And sure enough, we saw some newbies coming out from the beginning of the park, freshly scrubbed, hair combed, T-shirts on, and you could smell the soap on their bodies as they passed us. So obviously they could smell us. And we were really dirty. And the people, we could see the people's faces and they would say, "Oh my God, are we going to look like that?" And sure enough, it all came full circle. So we went back to the lodge, we had a great dinner, we had a big ceremony, we drank so much we could not get drunk. We were too excited. I don't know if that's ever happened to people, but before we went to the party room, we got showers. The first time in 6 days that we had bathed. It took me about 2 or 3 showers to get the dirt off my body, all the volcanic ash. So that was the end of the trek, and then we went back to Mombasa, and some of the people went on safari. And that was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done physically.
What an
I've
experience.
run 7 or 8 marathons, full marathons, and it was the most difficult physical thing I've ever had to do in my life. So that is something that I'll probably will always remember, hopefully. And pretty exciting story and pretty exciting time. So that's my story about Kilimanjaro.
Thank you for sharing, John.
Welcome.